Welcome back, Wolfpack. Verlis here, and today we're going to be talking about yet another interview bringing us new information about Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield. So if you end up enjoying the video, don't forget to leave a like, share with your friends, and get hype for these new Pokemon games. So let's skip the introduction and go right into the questions. Pokemon.com. One of the first things we want to ask about is the theme of Pokemon Sword and Shield. What do you hope players get out of their experience in the Galar region? That's actually a really good first question. The biggest theme in these games is the idea of being the greatest or the strongest. And I think you really feel that when you look at the champion and like how all that is really set up. And we express that through the Nintendo Switch being the most powerful system that the Pokemon games have ever been on in terms of graphical capabilities and hardware specifications. Also, the Dynamax feature shows how Pokemon can become huge and strong. We really want players to feel the idea of strength coming through these games. And I want to be the best like no one ever was. So that's pretty hype for me. And that also shows why they're limiting the decks to make the game more balanced competitively, so you can really prove yourself as a strong battler in the best competitive scene that hopefully we've ever had. Tell us about the Galar region. What was the inspiration behind the new region? Why did you feel this would be a good setting for the next big Pokemon adventure? Galar region is based on the UK and ties back into the theme of strength. There's a lot of legends in the UK of giants and whatnot. We're trying to convey that in these games as well, which I really think is going to be really cool. Like, looking forward to the folklore. I wonder what's going to happen with Impidimp. I don't like its design, but I feel like it has a lot of promise for its evolution. Creating an entirely new region sounds like a daunting task. How long does it take to develop a new region? What goes into planning these worlds? It really depends on the game, but development can go on for quite some time, specifically with Pokemon Sword and Shield. We began conceptual phase immediately after development wrapped up on Pokemon Sun and Moon. That concept phase took about a year, then we moved on to full production. After all that, along with debug phase, took about 3 years to make, and that's pretty much what we've seen. No, all the Pokemon games when these interviews come out take about 3 years, and that's effectively where Game Freak is, a 3-year development cycle for the new games. It's not like the game ends, they wait around a little bit, and then they like make a new game in a year every year. No, they've got it down pretty well. Now we have creating new Pokemon. We see you're holding these large plus versions of the starter Pokemon. What is the thought process behind creating new starter Pokemon? Are they designed as first partners from the start, or do you design multiple new Pokemon, then decide which ones will become the partners? That's actually really interesting. Is there an interview? Is there any information about this previously, about how starters are made? I think there's like a little bit, maybe not this direct. The way Pokemon design process works is different for each game, but for Pokemon Sword and Shield, we had our planners and concept designers work to come up with the settings for where these 3 partner Pokemon will be in the game. They created the text file with the thoughts of what that would be. Then they worked with our artists and designers to come up with designs that would fit that concept. From beginning, Scorbunny, Grookey, and Sobble were designed to be these games' starter Pokemon. Interesting. How do you define the individual character of each Pokemon? The first new partner Pokemon seems to have pretty defined personalities. And that is something that they have been like really specific on, is like, hey, every time we get information, expanding upon the character, because that's what you need. You know, you need to be able to form a bond with your starter Pokemon. One thing that sets Pokemon apart from other character brands is that we don't set out to design Pokemon characters themselves. Instead, they're supposed to be living creatures that are believable as existing in their own environment. Like Wooloo, for example. You can picture that Pokemon living on its own in the wild like an animal would. But it is a bit different for the first starter Pokemon. We try to infuse them with a fixed personality. Sobble's kind of a crybaby Pokemon, others might be more active or excitable. In general, they're designed to be believable living creatures, but we try to make it more fixed for the first partner Pokemon. And I think that is for branding, and it also kind of like just helps people get established. But then when you're like out in the wild and you're trying to piece together the world of Pokemon, then you're like, oh yeah, that thing over there, that other Pokemon is its own Pokemon. It's living and it's doing its own thing. For the first partner Pokemon in particular, those are the first Pokemon we have the player is going to choose, so having them convey a straightforward personality is very important. Makes it a lot easier to choose. Maybe Pokemon or maybe people are sad will choose Sobble. That's a lot of millennials, Junichi Masuda. That's a lot of the Pokemon community, especially now of that new announcement. There's gonna be like 80% Sobble adoption rate. Now, you mentioned Wooloo, which was recently revealed Pokemon that seems to become extremely popular with fans. Are you ever surprised by which Pokemon the public seems to latch onto? When we were developing the new Pokemon, Wooloo was just another Pokemon in the mix. And that's what it looks like. You know, when you just look at Wooloo, it's a well-designed Pokemon, and it's pretty adorable, and like I can see the awesomeness behind it, but I think it just kind of exploded way more than anyone could have expected in popularity. And then memes just kind of snowball. You know, you retweet it for clout, and then you kind of pick up and you become a part of the meme itself. So I understand that. I always thought it was cute, but it definitely caught me by surprise how popular it became and with how much the fans embraced it. I feel like that's how it's going to be for every Pokemon. Like, you know, we get a batch of 5 Pokemon, one of them gets picked and then overly memed. Developing a new Pokemon game. What'd you learn about the Nintendo Switch development during Pokemon Let's Go and Pikachu and Eevee during development of Pokemon Sword and Shield? This is a very big and very important question because a lot of people are hating on Pokemon Let's Go for really no reason, but it shows that at least Game Freak was able to get that experience on Nintendo Switch and then transition it into what people expected for the first Pokemon Switch game. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee were our first Pokemon game projects developed on Nintendo Switch, and was almost sort of a research project for us to learn how to develop on this system. We did learn a lot that we were able to use. From programming perspective, we were able to use very similar code when we were working on Pokemon Sword and Shield. That's another thing. It's like, oh, it's rushed. That's why they don't have all the Pokemon. That is the only conceivable reason why they don't have all of Pokemon National Dex, because Game Freak is rushed and they're overworked and they're lazy and all these bad things. Like, no, they just don't want to have all of the Pokemon because it's way too much bloat, and they weren't rushed because they already had experience with Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, and they were just kind of developing into Pokemon Sword and Shield. Now we got Sword and Shield instead of Let's Go, then there could maybe be an argument about it being rushed. Without having made those games, we probably wouldn't have been able to deliver Pokemon Sword and Shield at this time. Hey, there were different teams working on those different games, but we were able to use a lot of what we learned. What elements do you think are essential to a core Pokemon RPG? Here we go. This is like the question that needed to be asked about Let's Go, because Pokemon Let's Go is a main series game. Masuda, Pokeballs. That's a little broad, but let me think of something. One of the things I always put a lot of focus on is the feeling of growing alongside your Pokemon throughout your adventure. That's pretty core to the series, and that's more core in Pokemon Let's Go than almost any other Pokemon game, except for maybe Heart Gold and Soul Silver. One of the things about Pokemon is in general, is that wild Pokemon start out as enemies, but then you catch them. They become your friends, so you want to make sure that the Pokemon never come across as too evil. And again, Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, they has that. It's not about battling the Pokemon exclusively, it's about a wild Pokemon encounter and then developing that bond and then using it to conquer a region. They're not the bad guys, but they can also be your friend. Having that kind of relationship, I think, is key to the series. And then sort of inverse, what traditional elements do you feel can be given a new spin on these RPGs and how you encounter Pokemon? It's always random encounters, but we did a lot of experimentation on what could change that up a bit. Then we tried encountering Pokemon you see walking around, and Pokemon Sword and Shield, we landed on this hybrid system. Because yeah, you like see an exclamation point for a wild encounter, but then everyone loved Pokemon, like the overworld encounters from Let's Go, and I think that needs to stay in Pokemon forever. A lot can change. Every new game we're thinking of, an era of which the games are going to be released in, and who the target audience is. That's a good one, Masuda. Because they've been talking about how, you know, players are less patient, more entitled, and just kind of like society is slipping in general in other interviews and stuff. So it's like, I think they might have underestimated how bad it was going to be by the time we rolled around the Pokemon Sword and Shield and Pokemon community. So depending on that and who we're trying to make these games appealing for, things can change every time. It can be even something as small as being able to use the right stick to freely move the camera in the wild area. That was something that hasn't been in a Pokemon game before. There's a lot of debate internally about if we should let people control the camera. We tried it out and decided it was something that we wanted to include in the game. This is an example of meeting the needs of time. Boom. See, that's it. Like, Game Freak understands. They know what you guys want. Overly crying about it is just going to offend them when it's like, look, we gave you what you want. You guys said you wanted overall Pokemon encounters, Pokemon following you, and a non-handily game. You got Let's Go and then you hated it. You guys said you wanted Breath of the Wild, open world, Nintendo Switch, crazy free camera area, and then you still hate Pokemon Sword and Shield. So Game Freak's listening, and Game Freak is trying to make you guys happy, but you brats won't accept it. That's just a shame. Players are used to that, so we felt it would work well here. Yeah, there we go. Does Game Freak consider Pokemon Sword and Shield to be a more portable experience or TV? It's kind of hard to say. We view it as both. Good. Dynamax, Max Raid battles. This is pretty much just like not really too much crazy stuff. How do you feel about Dynamaxing differs from Mega Evolution and Z moves? We want to try a new take on that power-up gameplay that we had with Mega Evolution and Z moves. We combine the two in a way with Dynamax. Because yeah, it is like a more powerful Pokemon using enhanced moves, but only for a limited amount of time. We wanted to make it more strategic, with the players choosing exactly when to Dynamax, and which is why they were limited to just 3 turns. Instead of just having like one Z move or one Mega Evolution sweep controlling the entire battle, there's not going to be too much of an impact coming off of the Dynamaxing. Inspiration behind max raid battles. Start out with the idea of having these giant Pokemon, and then with the Dynamax feature, then we saw them in action game. We thought it'd be fun if you could team up with your friends and then do giant big boss challenge. Kind of follows along Pokemon Go. So max raid battles can be completed by yourself, or they solely designed for multiplayer. Now this information is already on the Pokemon website, but players just refuse to inform themselves, so I'm good this question's being asked. Even if you don't have anyone else to play with, you can challenge a max raid battle on your own. To do this, the other player slots, which would normally be filled by humans, will be support trainers. These are NPC players that will help you out. Nice. Exploring the wild area. Tell us about the wild area. How is it different from traditional routes in Pokemon? Our thinking behind the wild area is how it differs from traditional or typical routes. We want to create a place that'd be interesting to come back every day and see what has changed. I love that idea. I can't wait for the depth. I hope there's like 200 different species of Pokemon in the wild area. I'm guessing that means it doesn't change hourly. Like, you'll be like, oh, it's snowing one day, it's raining the next day, it's sunny the day after that, or like whatever all these other features are, and then day, night, all this fun stuff. So I think I like that idea as a daily. It's like if you're trying to locate a specific Pokemon that you're looking for, if you just want to have your adventure for that day, you do your foraging, you do all that stuff, it's gonna be pretty nice. You know, something will feel different each time you play. We really need a wide open space where you'd be able to do that. We also want to have some place where you would support, or where that would support other players that you can play with. A big place that provides a sense of adventure where you can encounter other people, a place that has a sense of discovery. Oh yeah, we need multiplayer in our Pokemon games. Make us a Pokemon MMO game, freak. Just gimme. Here you go. Oh, no, we still hate you. Typing into, like, see, that's the thing. Like, one feature undoes all of the incredible work that Game Freak has done in Pokemon Sword and Shield. It just doesn't make any sense. Typing into the wild area, we wanted to get your thoughts on the evolution of wild Pokemon encounters throughout the series. Of course, we used randomly encounter Pokemon in tall grass. Eventually, there'd be an exclamation point and wild Pokemon that would charge at you. Now we sometimes see Pokemon wandering around on screen. What place do each of these methods have in the world of Pokemon? These different methods represent 2 different ways of playing. With Pokemon roaming around, you can see Pokemon behaving a bit differently. Feels like a lively environment with the Pokemon around you. You can see which Pokemon are out there, you can choose which ones you want to catch, and have a goal in mind when you go and encounter your Pokemon. At the same time, there's a lot of enjoyment in not knowing what you're about to get into, and it's kind of a different process where you're engaging with both systems. I wanted to have both Pokemon Sword and Shield preserve the discovery of going into a random encounter. I can respect that. I actually like that we have a little bit of random encounter, we have this massive craziness in the wild area. I think it's pretty nice. And then we have the music of the Galar region. Now, so far all the music has been incredible from the trailers, and then like the battle music coming from the demos or some of the other things, it's just really nice. So, the primary composer are Mr. Go, and those are, yeah, Mr. Go something, and then Miss Minako. So Junichi Masuda's not primarily composing. I guess he's like full-on producing at this point then. So he's not a director. He stepped down from directing in Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, but now he's still a producer, and it seems like the music is being handled differently, and, that's pretty crazy. There are definitely a lot of things we challenge ourselves with to do the music this time around. Although I didn't compose any of the music, I was very involved with direction of the music and what I wanted to convey with it. With the UK being inspiration in Galar region, I was inspired by my enjoyment of UK rock music, so I wanted to bring the sense of that to the soundtrack. Also, wild area, typically most Pokemon have been fairly short tunes that have about a minute or so that would loop. But since you're going into the wild area for such long amounts of time, I wanted to have longer songs filled with up and down so it matches that game. And that makes sense too, so that's actually really cool. That's not just going to be even though it's a banger, we're going to have just like more orchestral, longer feeling sounds. I think that reminds me of like Stardew Valley. Stardew Valley has hours and hours of music in it, and you don't really like you don't really feel it looping too hard, and it does like kind of really set the scene. So I can't wait to see how the music in the wild area is going to be specifically. And it's also like Breath of the Wild, because Breath of the Wild just has, you know, something going on in the background instead of it just being quiet the entire time. So there we go, guys. That is our new interview about Pokemon Sword and Shield. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Hope you have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.